Live.
I'm live. Okay, we're finally live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We had some technical difficulties in getting online, but I believe we're here now. If you're out there, let us know. This is day 4 of Coffee with Dr. Tom. I hope you've got your coffee. I've got mine. Marzi made me an iced coffee today, which is really great. Tastes delicious. So thank you for joining. And let's just get right to it. This is day 4, the role of fevers. Are they good? Are they bad? Or are they both? And some other information I want to give you. So once again, thanks for joining. It gives my team purpose to be able to be doing this. And the comments that you're leaving are really helpful. Thank you so much. And the shares, there are hundreds of shares going out. So thank you for doing that. And hopefully you will continue to find this of value. So these were yesterday's numbers from Johns Hopkins University. We had crossed over 1 million cases confirmed worldwide, and the US leading that by more than double the next one, which is Spain. You see on the left there, the US is number 1. So today's numbers are even more startling. The US is certainly still in the lead by more than double now, about 2.5 times as much. And we know it's going to get worse here in the US. The reason for that is because a couple of reasons that we'll talk about today. One of them, our government was slow in isolating aggressive action. There is some evidence that they took the approach they did in Britain. And there was an article in the British Medical Journal about this last week, that in Britain, they decided not to isolate, not to quarantine, but rather they were going for herd immunity, meaning let's let everyone get exposed so the vast majority of people will build antibodies that will protect them. And apparently Boris Johnson and President Trump were talking about this together. And the US didn't do anything. We allowed all the college students to go down to Florida a couple of weeks ago for spring break. And we've allowed way too much contact. The idea of isolation right now is one that's very helpful to reduce exposures, and of course, washing your hands. And as we talked about yesterday, when you get packages delivered, make sure that you're conscious that you're opening the packages and washing the vegetables and things and wiping down whatever you get. Then you wash your hands. And when you are in the process of opening packages, remember not to touch your face, not to touch your eyes, and just wear gloves if you can. But if you don't have gloves at home, open your packages of whatever you're ordering, but then go wash your hands for 20 seconds. My granddaughter's been counting to 20 as she washes her hands. And we're going to see the numbers in the US go up, but these are the little things that everyone needs to know about exposures to reduce the amount of exposure. So we've been talking a lot about the bar on the left here are those who get exposed to the virus. And we don't know what that number is. Some papers are saying 60, 70, 75% of all of us will be exposed to the virus. And it takes about 5 days before some people are noticing symptoms. The lucky ones, well, they're not lucky, the prepared ones, the metabolically prepared ones, meaning their body is in a healthy state, they don't notice any symptoms at all. Maybe a sore throat, maybe a little itchiness in their throat, a slight cough for a day or so, a little bit of a fever. Then they notice nothing. And that's the vast majority of people. But those after 5 days whose immune system haven't been able to suppress this virus from reproducing inside of us, from binding inside our cells, those of us whose immune systems can't do that, over the next 7 to 8 days, the virus continues to propagate in the body. And when it does that, symptoms get worse. And about 20% of the people are having to go to the hospital. And that takes about 7 or 8 days after the first mild symptoms occur. In general, there's some ranges on both sides, but in general. And of course, the goal is for the people who go to the hospital, if they're not put on respirators, they're sent home. And because they've only got manpower right now to deal with those that are really sick. But is there anything that can be done for the people that are sent home, or the people who aren't going to the hospital, who aren't sick enough to go to the hospital? And we've talked about reducing the number of people that have to go to the hospital. And how do you do that? It's by our lifestyle, how we've lived our lives to this point, and how strong our immune system is that determines whether this virus is going to get a hold in us or not. It's all lifestyle. And one of the pearls that we've talked about is Dr. Bland's concept that, remember, the response to COVID-19 and any other virus is a lifestyle disease, meaning those people we know that have other diagnoses, they're much more at risk of having a more severe reaction to this. So people with diabetes or high blood pressure and on medications for autoimmune diseases, their immune systems are being suppressed to some degree. And so they're more at risk of our immune systems not responding appropriately to suppress this virus from growing inside of us. And we've talked about what's on the end of your fork is most important to think about here. And so the rainbow diet is something that we've talked about on day 2 in detail. You can go back and watch those. But I wanted to ask a little bit more today about these people who don't go to the hospital, those people that don't get sick enough to have to go to the hospital. What can we do to protect them even more? And I talked about Dr. Hyman's book and what a great book it is when you want to think about what kind of diet should I eat. Should it be paleo? Should it be ketogenic? Should it be Mediterranean? This book that Mark came out with recently is a really good one. Now, Dr. Hyman and his team just did a webinar yesterday. It was a great webinar, really good, helpful information. One of the things that shocked me was when they said only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy, meaning their body's in balance, it's working the way it should be. 1 in 2 of us has diabetes or are pre-diabetic right now, meaning our blood sugar is going yo-yo, and that suppresses immune system function. 1 in 3 of us have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and that suppresses immune system function. 75% of Americans are overweight, which more than doubles your risk of having to go to the hospital with more symptoms when you're exposed to COVID. 42% of Americans are obese, which more than triples your risk of having to go to the hospital with severe reactions from a COVID exposure. And in New York City right now, they said yesterday, about 40% of the hospitalizations are the youth. And I like that they called it youth from 20 to 40 years old, who are supposed to be vibrantly healthy, but 40% of all the hospitalizations now appear to be younger people. Why? Because, and that's not true in other countries, but it's here in America. And why is that? Because of the numbers right in front of us here. How we've lived our lives and how our metabolism is working right now. So, you know, when you look at the numbers and it's a reality check, then it becomes more rational to say, okay, I'm going to tweak how I and my family are living our lives. So I was, yeah, I know I'm eating some of the foods that I shouldn't eat. Yeah, I know that. And yeah, I know I really could be more exercise. I could do a little more workouts. So hopefully this is a wake-up call to listen and look at how we're living our lives now and see what are the easier things that I can tweak today, just today, and then over long-term other things. So I'm going to go back to this book, which is a game changer. It's a game changer. It's called The Blue Zones. That's Dan Buettner and his team looked around the world, what peoples have a high percentage of their population that live into their 80s, their 90s, over 100 years old, fully functional, not on any medications, no high blood pressure medication, no diabetic medication. Who are these people? And they found them in Okinawa, they found them in Costa Rica, they found them in Sardinia, they found them in different places in the world, and they try to figure out what do they have in common. Is it the water? Is it, I thought blue zones, oh, it must be the water, clean water. No, or blue skies, no air pollution. No, these guys used on a map of the world, they used a blue highlighter for these places. So they called it the blue zones. It's kind of cute little background information. But they found the people who were consistently living longer lives, consistently. And what did they see that were common? Well, they found a blue zone group in Loma Linda, California, just outside of LA. It was like, what? Loma Linda, California, where if you do a 10-kilometer run, you suck in as much particulate matter as smoking a pack of cigarettes? Yes, Loma Linda. Why Loma Linda? Because it's the home of the Seventh-day Adventists. And that people have a lifestyle that's different than the average American lifestyle. And they found out that those lifestyle principles were the principles that were consistent amongst every culture around the world, who had a higher percentage of people living into their 80s, 90s, over 100, fully functional life. So the goal is to live as long a life as your genetics will allow you, fully functional, not in a nursing home or in a wheelchair, right? So what are the different components of the blue zone that are the principles by which we all should be living our lives? Because this is where the pedal hits the metal. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies about the value of vitamin C. And I talked about it a couple of days ago, or about the value of vitamin D, or the value of multiple vitamins. And there are hundreds of studies, and yes, they help your immune system. This is where the pedal hits the metal, though, in terms of your entire body being metabolically fit and healthy. And what are the 9 principles of the blue zone culture? Well, I wrote this up a while ago when I did this. If wisdom is the sum of knowledge plus experience, so I'm giving you the knowledge, and then you start to experience, you try this, try that, then these individuals possess more wisdom than anyone else in the world, because they're living longer, they're fully functional, they're happy people. So what are the 9 principles of living a blue zone life? First, move naturally. And there are a number of studies coming out this week, last week, about exercise helps your immune system, and just walking, just plain old walking. It doesn't have to be aggressive exercise. Dr. Bland talked 2 days ago about just walking had a positive effect, a noticeably and measurable positive effect on the strength of immune system function. Now, Marzi found these things online, exercises, 15 minutes to 30 minutes, where they're on, this woman's on screen and there's just music, there's no talking, and she demonstrates, and we're doing the same things, they're jumping jacks and other things, and we're huffing and puffing as we're doing it. It's great. But even moving naturally, just walking, if you have a treadmill at home, get on the treadmill. And if not, if the weather allows you, go outside, go for a walk. Stay away from everybody, but just go for a walk. Get out there and start using your body. You've all heard, if you don't use it, you lose it. But moving naturally was one of the principles in the blue zones why these 85-year-old guys walking up the mountain to tend to the sheep, the 54-year-old researchers couldn't keep up with them. They were huffing and puffing, trying to keep up with them. Just move naturally. Second, Hari Hachibu. That means eat 20% less. And so one of the recommendations from many doctors who have read the blue zone, have talked to their patients about it over the years, get 9-inch plates. Give your other plates, donate them to Salvation Army. Get smaller plates so that you have smaller servings, and you'll automatically be eating 20% less. And that's one of the factors of the 9. Just walk away from the table just feeling, you know what, I think I might have enough. I might want more, but I'll stop here, because many of you know it takes 20 minutes before you get the full feeling when you're eating. If you eat until you're full, you've taken in 20 minutes more food than you probably needed to. Okay, that's Hari Hachibu. Number 3, a plant slant, almost a pound of vegetables a day. Almost a pound a day, the rainbow diet that we've talked about many times. Number 4, grapes of life. Have a little red wine every day. The Sardinian wines are the most potent in the benefits and the highest levels of what's called resveratrol that helps, but any red wines are good. Pinot Noir is a very high level of resveratrol in Pinot Noirs, but any red wines, and the higher quality of the wine, the better for you. Preferably organic would be helpful. Number 5, all these people have purpose. They're doing something in life. And so this is a time where you can take a few minutes and just envision what you'd like your future to look like. There's many exercises online you can do looking at purpose, helping to redefine your purpose of why you're here on the planet, raising kids or whatever it should be, and what's my purpose in the future? Where am I going? But having a vision of your future. Number 6, downshift, meaning they all spend a little bit of time every day in prayer, silent meditation, mindful walking, some way of downshifting, slowing down to have a little bit of quiet time. What I'm doing here is Marzi and I are going to bed early every night, about 8:30 or 9, and I wake up a little bit earlier, so about 4:15, 4:30, I'm waking up and I go sit outside and I watch the sun rise. I'm watching the sky turn color. I don't bring my phone out there. I don't just sit and watch and listen to the birds as they wake up and sing to the day. It's nice. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. But whatever you do, allocating a little bit of time every day to that. Belong, having a feeling of community. One of the docs from Dr. Hyman's clinic yesterday on their webinar said he's making a point now. He's reaching out to 3 people a day that he hasn't talked to in a while. And he's rekindling his relationships with his friends and family. When's the last time you talked to your favorite cousin, or a good friend? It's a nice idea to reach out a little bit every day to someone, rekindle those relationships, gets us out of the craziness of what we're in right now. Loved one comes first. And even if your spouse or your loved one has passed, they're in your memory as a primary, that you have someone who, as Marzi and I talk about it, is witnessing your life as you're going through the day-to-day of life. And it doesn't have to be a spouse. It could easily be a close friend, but having a primary person in your life. And the last one is the right tribe, having a group that you belong to. The old women that are sitting there knitting every day, talking about their families, or the old guys that are sitting down at the local coffee shop, watching the pretty girls walk by, sipping on their espressos, whatever your group is, but that you have a group that you belong to of like-minded people. And with the internet today, we have so much available to us of doing Zoom calls like this, or group calls. I have a group call tomorrow with my group of guys, the 7 of us. We've hung out together for over 30 years, and we're just going to connect tomorrow. So that these are the 9 factors of the blue zones. And some of the things of the recommendations: lose the remote, and buy a lighter garage door at some point so that you get out of the car and lift the garage door up, as opposed to pushing a button for the garage door. Use a shovel instead of a snow blower if you can, if your health will allow you to do that. When you go to the store, when you're driving to the store after this quarantine is over, park at the end of the parking lot, walk in, walk back out with your cart of groceries, walk the cart back in again. Get a little bit of walking in, deconvenience yourself. Have some nuts every day. We buy a pound of organic frozen nuts of many different types. We put them in big Ziploc bags, mix them together, put them in the freezer, and there's a bunch on the counter. I just grab a handful of mixed nuts, and I have a little bit most every day. Grow a garden, get outside, connect with the earth. These are all things that you can do. These are more of the things that you can do that to move in the direction of a blue zone lifestyle. Okay, now let's get down to the topic for today. Now, you remember my talking about 2 different immune systems. We have the innate immune system, which is the automatic response, doesn't have to do anything. This system protects us for any invaders that come in. And then we have the adaptive immune system, meaning when the innate can't get the job done, the adaptive immune system, the antibodies, come into play. This paper just came out last week from the Asian Pacific Journal of Allergy and Immunology, and they said the innate immune system is critical for the disease outcome, meaning who's going to have to go to the hospital and who's not. Is your innate immune system working? Coronaviruses are particularly adapted to evade the innate immune system detection. And so that the result is, those first 5 days, then there's no symptoms or anything, but but if your symptoms start getting pretty bad, that's because the innate immune system wasn't activated right away. And the result of not being activated is that the virus grew in your body. More virus, more virus, more virus, because the innate immune system did not get activated to go after it right away. That's the delay that we're seeing. The first 5 days before some people have symptoms, you get exposed, you don't have any symptoms, your innate immune system's doing a great job. You never know how well it's working for you. You should thank your innate immune system. Anyone who is not sick, you should thank your innate immune system, because we know 60 to 70% of everybody is going to be exposed to this thing. But if you're not sick, thank your innate immune system. How do you do that? Give it some love. Give it some of the things that it needs. And the rainbow diet is part of that. The polyphenols in berries and fruits is part of that. Vitamin C, vitamin D. You'll get the whole concept over the course of the 7 days of giving love to your innate immune system. But those that get sick, those that get a fever, those that get a sore throat, and then those that have to go to the hospital somewhere down the road because the fever wasn't able to take care of it, your innate immune system is not able to do what it's designed to do. This explains why they tend to have a longer incubation period. This is the coronavirus, where it's up to 11 days, whereas with the average flu, 1 to 4 days. You get exposed if you can't take care of it, in 1 to 4 days, you get the flu after you've been exposed. This one, it's longer because the innate immune system is being suppressed. The longer incubation period, probably due to their immune evasion properties, efficiently escaping host immune detection at the early stage of infection. That's this coronavirus that we're exposed to right now. So what can we do here? The bar arrow there that says, how can you help this group on the dotted line and make that dotted line even more people who don't get the infection? Individuals susceptible to COVID-19 are those with underlying diseases. We've heard this quite a bit. Those with diabetes, those with hypertension, those with cardiovascular disease, those that are packing too much weight, they are more at risk of having a reaction to this. And in general, young children are not, because their innate immune system is highly effective. There's exceptions to the rule, but in general, this is what everyone's noticing right now. The most common symptoms of COVID are fever and fatigue and respiratory symptoms, cough, sore throat, shortness of breath. You get a little fever, the next day you're fine, your body took care of it. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. I'll show you more on this. To mount an antiviral response, your innate immune cells need to recognize the invasion of the virus. They've got to see it's there. And so I'm going to talk about how, in the days to come, how do you help your immune system recognize the virus and so that it can take care of it? This recognition leads to activation, and this is all geeky stuff. You don't have to read all that, but it's activation of the innate immune system. So when your innate immune system recognizes the virus is here, it turns on all of these different cells that go after it to fight it. And one of the mechanisms it does in there is that it generates fever. Now, after your innate immune system's taken care of it all, now you produce the antibodies. And I'm going to talk about antibodies when we talk about testing in the next couple days in much more detail. But I want to talk about fever, and whole body hyperthermia is the geek word for fever. And monocytes are the primary cell that gets activated in the innate immune system. So when the monocytes are activated, saying, oh, look, COVID-19 is here, this virus is here. Monocytes get activated, it turns on, it's the on-off switch for generating a fever. If the rest of your innate immune system can't kill this thing right away or suppress it and keep it in place so it doesn't reproduce or grow, then it turns on a fever. The thermal effect of fever directly activates monocytes, which increases their ability to respond. I don't know if you can hear the monkeys in the background, but those are monkeys. Fever is a less common presenting symptom in elderly people, which may lead to diagnostic and treatment delays. Why? Because their innate immune system is worn out or worn down, so they don't get a fever. So the virus continues to develop inside of them, and then they get hit with breathing problems and a much more difficult response. Fever exerts an overall adverse effect on the growth of bacteria and on the replication of viruses. Really important to understand, fever is your friend. It's not an enemy. Fever enhances immune processes, and these are the cells of the innate immune system and of the adaptive immune system. Fever enhances it. Let's turn that assembly line on a little bit more here. You know, we're going to need some help here. We're going to need some protection. We need these antibodies. Fever turns that on. Elevated temperatures of 100.4 degrees, 38 degrees centigrade, and 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit, 39 degrees centigrade, have a direct positive effect on the innate immune system. Now, I want you to understand this because so many people think fever is bad. No, it has a positive effect on killing whatever got into your body, on suppressing it so it can't grow. Really important to understand this. Interferon, a potent antiviral agent, has enhanced antiviral activity. If the fever goes above 104, which is not, I don't think that's safe, and we're going to talk about that. But if it does go above 104, your body's turning on interferon to go after the fever, to really go after it big time. In a series of children presenting with severe infections such as pneumonia or septicemia, it was found that the lower the body temperature, the higher the mortality. Let that one sink in for a minute. Fever is your friend. You want to monitor it. I'll tell you how to monitor it, but you want to monitor it and allow your body to do its job. If the innate immune system has been unable to take care of this thing, where you have no symptoms at all, like 0 to 5 days, you're exposed, you don't feel anything, maybe get a little bit of a sore throat and it's gone in a day. If your innate immune system is not that strong, not that metabolically healthy right now, for whatever reason, and you're getting more symptoms, that's a wake-up call that your immune system is not functioning at the level it should. You get a flu once a year, you get colds regularly, those are wake-up calls. And that's why there are questions on my new patient exam, because it's a wake-up call. This person's immune system is compromised. It's not normal to get a flu every year. It's common, but it's not normal. And then most of us get over it. Yeah, I got a flu, I was down for a week, or I was down for 4 days. Yeah, my doc said it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's common, but it's not normal. It means your immune system, your innate immune system, needs some help. And so please think about that next time you catch a cold or a flu. Boy, am I pushing too hard? Am I too stressed? Where is that coming from? In human volunteers who were exposed to the flu, the rhinovirus, the use of anti-fever medications, are called antipyretics, was associated with suppression of producing antibodies to protect you, increased symptoms and signs of a trend towards longer duration of virus, meaning the virus lives longer in your body. Now, pharmaceutical companies and the media may also be contributing to the myths and the fears of fever with comments or advertisements that we hear every day, like if you love your child, get rapid relief with this medicine. Or if you don't care about the comfort, if you care about the comfort of your child, use this medicine. They're preying on us, and it's created this fear of fevers. Fevers are your friend. High fevers are not, but fevers are your friend. It's possible that the negative views about fever have their roots historically. Throughout most of history, fever was feared by ordinary people as a manifestation of punishment induced by evil spirits or a marker of death. Fever is your friend. Fever per se is self-limiting and rarely serious, provided that the cause is known and fluid loss is replaced. You always have to be drinking, hydrating when you have a fever. You don't necessarily feed a fever, but you hydrate a fever, you water a fever. Health professionals should consider parental education as the core of fever management with the objective to improve parental knowledge and anxiety and to reduce unnecessary use of health services. Could they say it any clearer, right? Don't worry about a fever. 100, 101, 102, fine. If it starts hitting 103, you call your healthcare practitioner and ask them what they think you should do at that point. They know your child's history or they know your health history, and they may say, well, let's watch it for a day or so and see if it comes down, or take some vitamin C, or take a Tylenol. They'll recommend whatever they're going to recommend to you, but you start to take action and close monitoring around 103, 103 and a half. There's no evidence that 102, 101, 100, it's a problem. I mean, you don't feel good with it, okay, but it's doing its job. Your immune system is trying to wipe out whatever the threat is, whether it's bacteria or virus. Your fever is your friend. The following advice may be given. Fever is a normal part of the body response to fight the infection. The body temperature is well controlled in the brain and does not rise relentlessly. Some doctors, some pediatricians say they're worried about fevers because kids can get epilepsy. They can get seizures from it. That's rare. It can happen if a fever is too high. It doesn't happen at 103, 102, 101. Extremely, extremely rare to have a complication. Let the fever do its job. Therapy is indicated for following situations: symptoms such as pain, severe discomfort, delirium, excessive lethargy, meaning they just don't want to move at all. Antipyretics, that's anti-fever medications, here serve to improve the child's well-being, allowing the child to take fluid and reduce parental anxiety. We should not be in support of the following interventions, meaning taking anti-fever medications for a child who does not have one of those conditions. That is, a febrile child with minimal or no symptoms such as discomfort. You know, if they don't feel well, fine. Let them not feel well for a day. Let the immune system do its job. Fever kills bacteria. Fever kills viruses. Most viruses love about 91 to 95 degrees. They can thrive in there, and they don't like higher temperatures. That's why some things on the internet have said, turn on a hair dryer, aim it at your nose to increase the temperature in your nasal cavity. There is some evidence that that can help, but some viruses love 98.6 and they thrive in the lungs. So the hair dryer is not going to do it, right? So you want to let your body increase its temperature naturally if it wants to. If your immune system says, we need a little help here, let's turn on fever. And it'll kill some of these viruses and some of these bacteria. That's the purpose of a fever. Now, most of the kids don't have severe symptoms when they have a fever. This constitutes a substantial proportion of febrile children. Such a recommendation may initially cause some dismay among parents because of their perception that their sick and needy children are not being treated properly. But if we are to play a leadership role in our fields, we should help to educate the public about the results of the research that says fevers are good for you. The accumulated data now suggests that fever has a protective role in promoting host defense against infection, rather than being a passive byproduct of an infection. A moderate fever, less than 104, is beneficial. Now, so that's it on fevers. Now, people have asked about saunas. Are saunas helpful? And the answer is, bottom line, yes. Here's a study, and I've got many studies, but I don't have time to go through them all. I have many studies here, and those that take saunas on a regular basis, they reduce, and then they're exposed to colds, they reduce the symptoms of colds by half. Half of the people don't get symptoms if they're people who have taken saunas on a regular basis. Now, Finland is a nation of 5.3 million people, but they've got 3.3 million saunas, meaning this is the country in the world that's doing more saunas than anyone else as a population. Has that had an effect on COVID-19? So here we have Finland over here, this kind of pinkish one. And has there been an effect on COVID-19? Look at the numbers. Now, these numbers are from last week. They're not this week, but they're from early last week in total cases. And so on the top row is the population of these Scandinavian countries, and then the total cases, and then new cases, and then total deaths and new deaths. Look at the numbers. Finland has 3 million saunas in a population of 5 million people. These people are doing saunas regularly in their life, and then they go in, they jump in the lake. You know, there's this hot cold thing that is quite beneficial. So yes, saunas can help. No, saunas will not kill COVID-19. Yes, saunas will help strengthen your innate immune system. Yes, and I've got many studies on that, just not enough time to tell you about them today. If you want to know more about saunas, we've got a great educational video at theDr.com. The link is, honey, is it theDr.com/sauna?
Infrared
Oh,
underscore sauna.
the dr.com infrared_sauna. The dr.com infrared, no, the dr.com infrared_sauna.
Saunas.
What?
Saunas.
Saunas with an S. And we have a whole video on saunas there and how beneficial they can be. It's not a first line expense for people right now, but if you're thinking about lifestyle, it's something that will support your immune system and your blood sugar and your cardiovascular health and your blood pressure over the years to come. Marzi and I love our infrared sauna. And base hits, remember, base hits win the ball game. It's the little things you do that will win the ball game. Sauna's a big thing. I'm not saying everyone should do saunas right now, but if you have one, get in it on a regular basis. If you've been thinking about one, get one when you can. But fevers are good for you. Eat the rainbow diet. Always more vegetables, more fruits, different colors. It's going to help. It's a base hit that has lots of potential of scoring home runs for you. Don't forget about the blue zones and the 9 factors that they found. This is a great book to read. It's where the pedal hits the metal. And these are the people that live the longest, healthiest lives. And these are the common features amongst all those people. And of course, as is true with every day here, you can get all of the transcripts. I'm having them printed. You can rewatch the videos. You can follow along with the slides. You can get the MP3s, and you can go to theDr.com/coffee for all of these. And for those of you that can't afford to pay for it, just type in the word scholarship. And it's, just click the button. There's a button there now. Thank you, honey. Just click the button for scholarship. No one is to be refused because they can't afford it. And all the information is there for you. With that, I would say thank you for your kind attention, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.